If you've been paying attention to what's going on community-wise, there is a spring summit happening the 24th through the 26th. There's 20 of us, 20 creative designers that are participating in this summit. So we are reminding everybody to please join us because the event is free, absolutely free. It is a private Facebook group that you need to get a ticket for. So you can find that information up in my profile. It's the top link. So go ahead and click on that. Get signed up for the free portion of this event for the summit for spring, and then you'll have 20 minutes to get an all access pass. That pass actually is good to do replays because every day, each day at midnight, all those videos that are in that Facebook group are going to be taken off and then put into a all access pass area where you can go back and watch the tutorials again, and there is bonus material at that point, and that ticket is $27. You have 20 minutes once you sign up for the free ticket to make that $27 investment to then get all the tutorials that you can watch at your own pace as well as bonus materials. And I just wanted to go ahead and share that with you if you hadn't seen that yet. So that's coming up February 24th through the 26th. And if you have any questions about that, feel free to message me. Today's conversation is going to be just me with the community. So it's something that I've thought about because when you've been doing this for a while, you figure things out rather quickly. So welcome to Real Talk. Today we're going to talk about why community matters more as you grow. Okay, so I'm Claudia with Claudia's Door Decor. In case you don't know me, hi. But it's important. You think that community only matters at the beginning, you know, when you have so many questions to ask, you need to find where to go, where to ask your questions and all of that stuff. But as you grow, that community matters more because the struggle and the expectation is more. So you need to get perspective from others that are doing the same thing that you are. So that's why I thought this conversation would be important for beginners too, because when you're starting out, building that community, building that safe place for you to go to ask questions, to get encouraged, to have information is so important, because I don't know if you were like me. I didn't know what to ask. I didn't know what things were called. I didn't know where to look, because as much as people say, go ahead and search it, like go ahead and put that information into a search engine. I don't know about you, but if you don't know what to ask, that search is not going to give you the answers you're looking for, and a lot of times can create more frustration. I don't know if anybody else felt that way, but I know that I did when I was starting out a few years ago. So I wanted to talk about those things as well as, you know, as you grow, perspective from other people that are doing the same thing with you is highly important. So let me get my notes pulled up so that, because I have been doing research on this. I am a researcher, so I have been doing research on this. Okay, so what would it feel like to you to just sit back? Just sit back and listen. Interject, ask questions, stop me if you need to, but sit back and listen to somebody who has not only been part of this community. I've seen both the good and the bad of this community. It's not all roses. It just isn't. I mean, anytime you get a large group of people that are watching each other, learning from each other, there's different information being shared, guys. What works for one person isn't going to work for another, right? And you have to figure out what pieces you can take and that will work for you, or create something completely different that works for you. If you're sharing what you're doing, it's going to be different from somebody else who's doing the same thing. That's why it's important to just take information. Just take information, soak it in. Don't cookie cutter it. Don't say, okay, because this person said don't do this, I'm not going to do this. Guys, we're all different. We all do things differently. Let me tell you, there is not one solid way to make a wreath. There's not just one way to put ribbon in. There's not just one way to attach a sign. It's all so different. Thanks for the coffee. There's so many ways to do what we do. Miss Cricket, hey love. All right, so why community matters, right? So I didn't create Real Talk just to do another live. That wasn't why I created this space. I wanted to have a place where we could have some real conversations, like real behind the scenes stuff, not just the highlight reel, not just, hey, look what I made, look what I'm selling, not that. I wanted to have a place where people could share the highs and the lows, the behind the scenes, the difficulties of it, the wins, what's been successful, what's been a struggle, why community matters, why the people that speak into you or are sharing with you, why that matters. Protect yourself, guys. Protect yourself. If something doesn't sound right or something feels off, it's okay to question it. It's okay to question it. It's okay to say, hey, that didn't feel right. That doesn't feel right. Not only does it not feel right, I don't agree with it. That's okay. That's actually healthy. That's actually you thinking for yourself, right? That's actually you saying, hey, I need this. I need this to work for me, and this is how that's going to happen. It's not going to be a one size fits all. And if that's a problem for the person that's sharing, like if you don't do it my way, you're doing it wrong. Gosh, that's not how you do this. That is not how you do this. I get more out of watching people who have figured things out for themselves and what works for them. Those absolutes, those always, never, all those absolutes that people say. I'm like, don't ever say never, and don't say always, because here's the thing. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to grow. You are allowed to figure things out and do things different. It's okay. Don't put absolutes on yourself. Do you know what I mean? Just don't put absolutes on yourself. All right. Trying to fill in the gap for information, trying to have real conversation with you guys. Few spaces talk about fear, doubt, burnout, or loneliness, right? Because everybody, like I said, is sharing their highlight reel. Nobody wants to jump on somebody's live who is, Debbie Downer, struggles, talking about somebody else, just sharing all the frustrations. I'm a little distracted with what's behind me. So let me just take care of that because I was distracted by it. Hi, Miss Wendy. So nobody shares those, like they don't share those things. But for some reason, people have no problem airing their, or venting their, or pointing fingers at others' problems, right? They don't have a problem with it. But this is not the space for that. So anybody that says, hey, this is aimed at a single person, or you're talking about a situation. Guys, let me just clear that all up and just share with you. I'm talking from my experience. I'm talking from what I have talked about, what I have shared, what I have done in this space, and what I have seen. my experience isn't necessarily going to be somebody else's experience. And I understand that. Like, I'm mature enough to understand that my experience is mine. My perspective is mine. My opinion is mine. Okay. But I like to also talk about things in this space so that we can share perspectives with one another, so that there's a safe space to share your perspective, to share what you're going through, to maybe get an idea of how to look at something a little bit differently, whether it's designing, whether it's relationship, whether it's business. Because I hate to say it, when you are in this space, you are in relationship, whether it be with your customer, a vendor, another creator. You are creating relationships, and that's important. Okay, so it's important for you to be self-aware. It's important for you to be able to communicate these things, what your expectations are, what your standards are, what you're looking for. This is why, as you grow, the people that you surround yourself with matter so much more. Okay, so starting out, so many of us started this as a hobby. So many of us started creating, designing wreaths as a hobby. It was something that we wanted to make for ourselves. We made as a gift for a loved one. Somebody asked us to make something. One thing led to another. Our materials grew because we were enjoying buying things to make pretty wreaths with. And next thing you know, we're in business. Because there's only so many wreaths you can make that you can put in your home before they have to go somewhere else. Or you have to stop making. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to stop making wreaths, right? Hi, Miss Gina. I don't want to stop making wreaths. I want to continue this. I want to continue to grow in this space. I want to figure out what else I can do, who else I can help, because that's where the love of it is. So it starts as a hobby, and then next thing you know, you have a business. And it all started from what? Sharing a wreath that you made for your door. And next thing you know, you posted that on social media and you're getting messages from people. Can you make me one too? Can I have one? Because face it, a handmade item, handmade wreath looks so much better than the store-bought, the mass-produced. That's why we made our own. Right? That's how you started, right, Gina? You made it for yourself. I mean, the stories pretty much are pretty much the same. Pretty much the same as to how we all started doing this, okay? All right, so now that you're making for others and more people are wanting this, how long before somebody shared the handmade platform with you and asked you, hey, are you doing this yet? Because I know for me, I hadn't even heard of that platform until somebody said, hey, why aren't you selling here? I'm like, what's that? And then I come to find out that that's where people buy all kinds of things that are handmade, right? So a whole new world opened up to me. And then the fear crept in. The fear crept in. I had never shipped something I made to a customer. That scared me. I'm 100% honest. That scared me. I'm like, I have control over the item that I make. I know where all the pieces go. It's all beautiful. It's all together lovely. And then I'm putting it in a box, taping the box shut, and on a wing and a prayer, hoping it gets to that customer safely. Because I don't have control over the people that are touching it, the people that are handling it, praying nothing heavy gets put on top of it. Because I hate to point out the fact, but from my experience, all those beautiful fragile stickers that we think are gonna alert to the fragility of the item, they're ignored. It's almost like a challenge for the shipping side, right? Let's see how fragile it is, because it's our job to secure and ensure that that item is packed in that box enough to get tousled and thrown around. Because that's what happens. I mean, honestly, if you've ever talked to the guys in shipping, ask them. Ask them how they get boxes from point A to point B. There's nothing fragile about that process. There's nothing, hear my words, nothing fragile about that process. There just isn't. So be mindful. That's what scared me about the whole shipping thing, you know? But then somebody walked me through. Somebody made a video. Somebody made a video and showed me how to pack things properly, how to get it secured in the box, how to do everything that I can do to ensure that the item gets from me to that customer in the safest way possible. Does things happen? Yes, things happen. But from my perspective, I am doing everything I can to get that box from my hands to that customer in one piece. Okay. So there are things that are out of your control. There are so many things that are out of your control. And the only thing you have control over is what you do. It's what you do. All right. So the questions that come in, okay, when you're asking yourself all the things, when you start thinking about this hobby as a business now, right? Am I doing this right? How do I sustain this? What if I mess this up? What's next? Like all of those things come in, right? When you're starting to shift that mindset from hobby to business, all of these things can be like overwhelming. They can just be overwhelming. Who are you talking to about these things? You know, who's your cheerleader? Who's the one that's behind you going, I know you can do this. I know you can do this. I don't have the answers for you, but I know you can do this. Because you have to go and figure this out. You have to put yourself out there and figure all of this out. And it's a whole new world. So it's here's perspective. And I know guys may understand or may not. But when a baby is handed to that mama for the very first time, I don't care how many books you've read. I don't care how prepared you think that you are. You have that moment that you're just like, oh my gosh, this is another human being that cannot communicate their needs, wants, pains, or frustrations with me. And I have to figure out and keep this human alive. That can be how a business can feel, right? When you're thinking of a business, it's like literally getting handed a baby for the very first time, where you are absolutely clueless as to anything that this entails. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It is frustrating, exciting, scary, all the things at the same time, right? But that's what putting one foot in front of the other can do for you. And there are people, I promise you, there are people out here that want you to succeed, that want you to do and be the best that you can do and be. Okay? Not everybody is like that. Not everybody is like that, but there are people that do want to see you succeed. They want you to turn that hobby into a business. They want you to have that joy of creating handmade items and having a sustainable financial freedom with that. Okay. And I'm one of them. I want this for you. Okay. I am a huge cheerleader for you because I know how hard it is. I know how hard it is because I'm doing it too. Okay. So I can tell you don't be scared, but I know that you are. I can tell you, hey, the information that's out there can feel overwhelming, but there's a way to get the answers, and it doesn't have to be that frustrating. Okay. And it's hard. I get it. It's hard. And it's hard to see somebody that's live and they're creating stuff and they're talking about business and you're like, oh my gosh, somebody who can answer my questions. And then you feel deflated because they're not answering your questions. There's a time and a place for everything, including your questions. And I've already told you when I started talking here, if you have absolutely any questions, feel free to ask. This is here for you. This is here and open for you. I want you to get answers. Okay. And you hear about all these groups, right? All these people that have these groups. Well, those groups are there for a reason. Okay. It's a place where you can ask all your questions in an environment where other like-minded people are in the same place and the person can share their answers with you, and it doesn't become repetitive, and you can grow that way because community builds businesses. It just does. Community builds businesses. Okay. This is a place where, and I'm talking about the communities, they're places that can help you make financial decisions, not necessarily tell you how to run your business, but tell you how, like they can explain to you like how to price to create a business. That's part of it, right? How to price things for an online handmade sold place, that the Etsy fees then don't become a burden. I said the word afterwards. That's okay. Silly me. Sorry, TikTok. Silly me. But the handmade place, right? So there are fees included with that, but there are fees for websites too. So there's going to be fees no matter what. But the cool thing about this particular place that charges you fees, you have to understand that they are trusted. Okay, that platform is trusted, it's known, and they're bringing the customers to you. Okay, so there's a fee for that. You're going to pay for that because this becomes your storefront. Okay, so if you had an actual brick and mortar storefront, you would be paying a lease, rent, something for that storefront. Okay, which is so much more than you actually pay in fees if you think about it that way. Okay, and if you have more questions about that kind of stuff, please reach out. Please reach out. Okay. Another thing that's good to talk about in community is time boundaries. Like, how do you manage your business if you work a full-time job, which I do? How do you manage that? Okay. How do you manage that successfully? Okay. People can share with you within a community how they do that because it can be very overwhelming. There are some people that started this business as a side hustle and now it's their full time. It has grown to the point where it can sustain them financially full time. For some of us, that's the dream. That's what we want. We want this business to sustain us financially. But there's a lot of steps and a lot of work that goes into getting you there. And that's why community, sharing information, sharing journeys, that's why that works. Okay, is because we can get ideas, have cheerleaders, because we can all get there. We can all get there. It takes time. It takes grit, but it takes building. It takes building. Okay. And here's the other thing, energy management, because it can be exhausting to manage two things, a full-time job, or manage more than two things, full-time job, family responsibilities, and creating a business. That's why everybody doesn't do it, because it's hard. If it was easy, you guys have heard this, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. Okay, but this is why everybody isn't doing it. You also hear social media is a job too. Yes, Gina, social media is a job too. And you can work smarter, right? Not harder. But if you think that you have to post this many times on this many platforms, this many ways, that is overwhelming for anybody. So being in a community where you can share ideas and find out how what has worked for people, and maybe, you know, getting different ideas and perspectives and then creating something that you figure out for yourself is so much better than being out here winging it on your own, or trying something for just a couple of months and not seeing any progress, only to find out that for those that you see being successful, it took them years to get to that point. Consistency. It takes years to build to that point, to build an audience, to get yourself out there. It doesn't take just a couple of months. So building that consistency, something that you can, that's sustainable, something that you can create that is over and over and over again. But the way to do that is to know that other people tried all these different things and then landed here. And oh, by the way, it changes. Wow, right? It changes. Just when you think you've gotten figured it out, it changes. Frustrated anybody? Is it frustrating yet? But here's the other part of it. All those feelings about this is valid. Like everything you feel, frustrated, tired, annoyed, defeated. Oh my gosh, that's a good word. All of those things are valid. However, don't stay there. Don't stay in that feeling. And here's why, okay? You don't have to focus on those factors. Focus on the joy part. How much you like creating, how much you like shopping for your creations, how much you like planning a design. If you focus on that, it keeps those negative thoughts kind of at bay. You know, it can keep that negativity kind of at bay. And you need cheerleaders in your life. You need people supporting you. I have a hair somewhere that's bothering me. I apologize. You need people supporting you. You need people being your cheerleaders, because I don't know about you, but when you get a cha-ching, you just want to jump up and down like a toddler that just, you know, was told they're going to Disney. You just want to jump up and down. And when you tell somebody that you got a cha-ching and they're excited for you, but their answer is, good job, I'm happy for you. But it wasn't met with the same excitement because they don't know what that means. It can fall flat. So that's why being in community with each other. Oh my gosh, I remember that, Wendy. I remember that. Even when you're in the Dallas airport, when sharing with somebody that knows what getting that cha-ching is, and they're saying yay, and they're high-fiving you, and they're doing all the things, even though they're far away, it hits differently. It feels differently, because you are then like, yes, they understand what that means. They understand that I just got a sale. That's huge. And you need people jumping up and down with you, even when you're at the Dallas airport. That's so funny. That's a real life experience right there. She can share. And then there comes a time when you are growing, when you are doing all the things, where you're succeeding and maybe people in your community aren't, that you start questioning sharing, right? Because then it kind of feels like bragging or boasting. You're not in the right community. If you feel that sharing a win makes you feel like you can't do that because it feels like bragging or boasting when you know that others haven't gotten that win yet, you're not in the right community. Think about that. I know, I get it, but there's no reason that you should be smaller or make yourself smaller because you're winning. That should be celebrated because you're working hard, and it's obvious that you're working hard, because those wins don't come easy. friend. Those wins don't come easy. You have put in the work. You have been consistent. You have done all the things. And your wins matter. Your wins matter. So celebrate the heck out of them. But if at any point you're celebrating somewhere and you don't feel like you're feeling guilty or some kind of way, you're not in the right community. Okay? Okay? Hear your friend. Hear your friend. Celebrate your wins. Okay? All right. Right, Emily? Right, Cindy? I'm telling you. All right. The truth is, the bigger your business gets, the lonelier it can feel. If you don't have the right people around you, the bigger your business gets, the lonelier it can feel if you don't have the right people around you. Not because people disappear, but because fewer people understand. Fewer people can relate, and fewer people ask how you're really doing. Because they don't want to know you're winning. They don't want to know. You're not in the right community if that starts happening. You're just not. You're just not. Let me tell you something. I get so excited, so incredibly excited, so authentically excited to see people I care about that I've watched their journey when I see them winning. Because that tells me that it's possible, it's doable, and it's for anyone that puts in the work. So yes, I want to be around those people. I want to be around the people that are out here doing the work to get the reward. Because without risk, there's no reward. So if you're not out here doing all the things that it takes to build your business, if you're not pivoting when you need to pivot, if you're not seeing opportunities and grabbing onto them, then you're not going to win. I'm trying to tell myself this right now, and I'm trying so hard. Emily, if you have the right people around you speaking into you and are truly, they mean what they say and they say what they mean, then they can remind you and hold you accountable to the things that you're trying to do. Because we're not meant to do this by ourselves. None of anything that we do in life is meant to do by ourselves. Think about all the support groups that are out there for all different types of things. There's a reason they're there. It's because there's something about the me too. There's something about other people saying me too that makes a difference. It makes a difference. It makes you feel seen. It makes you feel known. It makes you feel not so alone. Okay? All right. There's also a thing about being visible and not supported, being praised but not known, and carrying things quietly. If you're not sharing, if you're not talking about things, if you're not putting yourself out there and you wonder why you feel so alone, nobody knows. Nobody knows. And it doesn't have to be a whole group of people. It can be one person. It can be one person that you connect with, that you find you feel safe with, that you can share things with, that is always supportive and always giving you a different perspective and always cheering you on because they want to see you win. Okay? It doesn't have to be a whole group of people. If you find one person that you feel comfortable with, because I know a lot of people are like, but they're scared, they don't know who to trust. Well, people have to earn your trust. People have to earn your trust. You don't just give trust away. You know, people will show you who they are. Just give them time. And trust your gut. Trust that intuition. You were given intuition. You were given discernment. Trust that. If you feel off, if you feel some kind of way, if you feel off, you could be having an off day. But if you feel off and you're in relationship with somebody and you ask them, hey, I feel we're off. Is something wrong? You know, you can get a lot of information based on that. How they respond, how they treat you going forward. Trust it. Trust it. Actions speak louder than words. Okay? Actions speak louder than words. You guys have heard it. If they wanted to, they would. You know how true that is? Because think about the things that you prioritize. You prioritize the things you want to do, right? It becomes important to you. If someone is important to you, you want them to know that they're important to you. I tell my kids this all the time. They're adults, but I remind them, if people want to be in your life, in your circle, they want to support you, they will. You don't have to beg for it. You don't have to chase it. Just like if you want to support somebody, you go out of your way to do so. So if you wanted to, you would, right? Okay. Enough said about that. I feel like I'm getting a little preachy, but it's all about community, and it's about having the right people around you. It's important. It's very, very important. All right. So why community matters more as you grow. Let's get back to that. Not louder community, not bigger community, but the right kind of community. What kind of support do you wish existed right now? What kind of support do you wish existed? Think about that. And are you showing up that way for others? And it can be more than just one community. Absolutely, Gina. Absolutely. It's that give and take thing. You can't just be a taker and you can't just be a giver. It has to be both. It has to be both, like a seesaw. If one person's always down and one person's always up on a seesaw, it's not balanced, right? So it's got to be a good give and take. It's got to be a good push and pull, right? And you've got to give your, okay, honesty. That's great. You want to exist. You want honesty. Okay. But Emily, when you say honesty, some people think they want people to be honest. And sometimes honesty is just too much for them. They don't know how to manage that. They don't know how to manage somebody who's being honest. And sometimes, okay, and here's another thing. Honesty can be kind. It can be kind. It doesn't have to be brutal. It can be kind, but honesty has to come from relationship, right? It has to come from building that relationship so that when somebody is honest, it's received well. Because I know for me, if somebody's being honest with me and it's from somebody who I have a relationship with and I trust, the sting of that honesty isn't as heavy. If that makes sense. The sting of that honesty. Constructive criticism. Got it. Got it. Constructive criticism, which means you're building up and not tearing down. Did you guys know that criticism isn't all equal? Right? Criticism isn't all equal. Right? So you can have constructive criticism, which means you're building that person up with honest input, not criticizing to hurt and put down. There is a difference. So now I understand. Constructive criticism. It is different than honesty. It is so different than honesty. Okay, honesty comes from relationship where it's received well. Constructive criticism can come from anybody that is constructive in their criticism. Right? You have to be constructive. No, it's fine. You're good. We got there. We got there. That's all part of communication. That's all part of back and forth communication. So we got there. So constructive criticism. Okay, got it. Okay. All right, let's talk about some myths. Okay. Once I grow, I won't need community anymore. There's a quiet myth in business that once you make it, in quotes, you won't need community anymore. Somewhere we absorb the idea, this is why it's a myth. You're like, that's crap, not true. But this is why independence equals success. This is why the myth is there. And needing help equals beginner energy. And that's not true. That's not true. Asking questions equals not ready yet. That's not true. Every stage of your business, every step of what you're building, there's going to be different questions. There's going to be different questions that need different answers, that needs different authority in the situation. Like going from craft shows, selling locally, to then either opening a storefront or selling online, to teaching classes, to participating in juried shows where, you know, you get thousands of people that are going to come through. Every single step of that, there's different information. There's different things that you need. There's, you know, sole proprietorship versus LLC. At what point in your business, what do you need? Oh, I love that, Emily. She said, my dad said learning something new every day is what life is really all about. Your dad was wise. Your dad was so wise. That is so true. But not only taking in information or getting information, but also sharing information. That's what I'm all about. I'm all about the things that I learn, I want to share. He was a ceramic professor. That's amazing. Love that. He created with his hands. I'm thinking of a potter, you know, the potter and the clay. Love that. Love that. So we think growth means outgrowing people instead of outgrowing seasons, right? And nobody says this out loud, but a lot of us feel like once we grow, we're supposed to have it figured out. If you think you have it figured out, you're lying to yourself. If you think you have it figured out, you are lying to yourself. Things change. Things change. I mean, in everything. I can't think of one thing that has stayed the same since I started this journey. Like, I'm like, oh, I didn't know I needed to do that. I didn't know that that was supposed to be that. I didn't know that I needed this person or this person for my business to guide me. Be willing to take in information from those who have gone ahead of you, that are willing to share with you. Again, you build relationships in community. You build relationships in community. Think about the people that you trust with fill in the blank, whatever it may be. For your health, you have a doctor you trust. For teaching, you know, learning certain things, you have people you trust. So, and that trust was built over time, right? Experience. People are scared of change, but we can't evolve without it. Gina, that is so true. So crazy true. Okay. So early on, when you're starting out, everything feels crowded. You're surrounded by tutorial, Facebook groups, lives every hour, advice freely given, want it or not. People are eager to help beginners. Questions feel safe to ask. Mistakes are expected, right? Post a question inside a Facebook group. 10 people respond. You're encouraged to experiment. Nobody expects perfection. Remember when asking felt easier because the stakes were lower? So true. So true. And you also have to, be mindful that not everybody shares information. And it's not gatekeeping. That's just not what they want to do. They're not ones that it's natural for them to share and teach and put themselves out there. It's not natural for them, so it feels foreign to them, and that's not what they want to do while they're live. Don't label them gatekeepers. That's not what they're there for. Other creators are the opposite. They're so happy that you asked the question of how to do this and how to do that, So understand that that's okay. Like, it's all okay. Hi, Miss Mary. It's all okay. Don't expect the same thing from every creator that you watch online. Give it time. You will get to know the people. They show up the same all the time. You'll get to know who you can ask your questions to, who you don't need to ask questions to. But don't label them. Don't feel some kind of way because they're not sharing. That's just not their gifted. That's not what they want to do. Exactly. You will vibe with certain folks. Very much true. Okay? And then as you grow, things get quieter, right? You start making real money. You're building a brand. You're being recognized. And suddenly people assume you're fine. Advice slows down and support becomes conditional. You hesitate to ask questions because I should know this already. Or people expect me to have answers, right? You stop sharing struggles because you don't want to look ungrateful. You don't want to confuse your audience. And then you stop sharing wins because it feels uncomfortable. You don't want to trigger comparison. Let me tell you something. If I've learned anything in my 5th decade of life, is that you can't control these things. You can only control how you show up, what you do, your thoughts, your actions, your reactions. You cannot control what anybody on the other side of the screen thinks or what they do. How they think, how they feel is all going to come from their perspective, right? We're all on a journey called life. So everybody's going to share or take things in based on their perspective. But we can't control that. As much as we would love to say, hey, I know you think this about me, but that's not me. How are you going to convince somebody that thinks some kind of way about you if that's just how they feel or how they think? You can't. So if you hear me at all during all of this thing, there's only one thing you can control, and that's you and how you show up and how you continue to show up, regardless of what anybody's going to think or say. Okay? That's on you. That's on you. Have you started filtering what you share? At any point, have you started filtering what you share based on how it's received or how you feel it's received? Don't filter yourselves. You will find your people. You will find your people. Show up as yourself every single time. Show up for your business. The right people will show up for you. They just will, because it's important to them. I have to love it before I post it, Emily says. We need you on the epic side of the street. Is that new app? Oh my word. Oh my word. Anyway, moving right along. Fewer people, as you grow, fewer people understand what you're dealing with. Your problems aren't aren't beginner problems anymore, but they aren't big enough to be obvious problems either. The decisions on how you grow, financial pressure, boundaries, expectations. So real life examples based on that. Choosing what not to do. Deciding what to scale or pause. Those are huge decisions that as you grow, you have to decide. Okay. Managing burnout while still showing up. I had to get over myself to find comfort in sharing my journey, Mary said. I get that. I get that, Mary, and your story is so amazing. Your story is so amazing. I'm actually going back and asking those that did Real Talk with me 2 years ago to come back and share where they are today. And Mary, I would love for you to join me again if you're willing, but we'll talk about that later. Okay. Experience doesn't always come with a crowd. Sometimes it comes with silence. Have you ever felt like there wasn't a place for your questions with what you're carrying now? That there's not a place to go to ask because it's not as easy when you've hit a certain point, right? Again, that's where community matters. That's where community matters. So people start assuming that with success, it means confidence. You have answers. You have clarity and certainty. But confidence doesn't mean clarity. And experience doesn't remove doubt. Growth doesn't erase fear. It changes it. So here's some fear. Fear of making the wrong decision instead of any decision. Because when you're first starting out, any decision, make a decision, whatever it is, right? You just do it. You just go with it. If it fails, you pivot, you do the other thing, right? But you have to at least try. You have to at least put yourself out there. And as you grow, the decisions get bigger. Okay, so you can't just willy-nilly it. You have to make decisions with intention, right? Fear of disappointing others. Fear of disappointing others is a big one. Fear of losing momentum. If you make a decision, is this gonna slow your momentum? Is it gonna shift your momentum? Is your momentum gonna be maybe at a pause in this season? Fear of being misunderstood. Hi, I'm Claudia, and I'm misunderstood a lot of the time. Because the more in tune you are with yourself and the more comfortable you are in your own skin, it's hard for people to relate to that. That's been my experience. It's hard for people to relate with someone who is really truly comfortable with who they are. But I have done so much work on myself to get to this point. I have done the work to get to this point. Okay, because it was important to me to be comfortable in my own skin, to break the patterns of people pleasing, of caring so incredibly much about what somebody else thinks about me when it's not in my control. When people start talking to each other about you instead of talking to you about you, it becomes none of your business. If you're not bringing it to me, it's none of my business. You guys go have your happy time and assume whatever you want to. I can't think about that. I can't go there. I can't think about that. That's not brought to me. It's none of my business. None of my business. Okay? What kind of fears show up now for you that didn't exist in the beginning? We all have them. You know, there are things that show up now that didn't exist in the beginning. When you were trying to figure this all out, you had more questions, right? So that was your focus. So the other stuff didn't matter. But then you have more answers, and that's when the fears show up. I don't know why that happens, but it does. Okay, that I will keep doing the work and it will never matter and I won't succeed. That's real. That's a real fear, right? Hi, Shona. Hi, Shona. And Emily, that's not true. If you do the work and it matters to you, you will have success. That's the truth of that. My fear is putting in so much time, energy, and money into it and it fails. Gina, you're not alone in that. You're not alone in that. But here's the truth in that. Okay? The time that you put in, okay, if it's the right kind of time, if it's productive time, okay, the money you put in, the money, don't go into debt because of this. That's not the right way to do this. Okay, I know there's a saying that says you have to spend money to make money. I get that. But in this case, the slow grow is the better. She's like, too late. The slow grow is better. Okay, which means that you buy things for a project, you make it, you sell it, you repeat. Did any of us do that? I haven't met a person that did that yet, but I do know that would have been a better way of doing it. I do know that would have been a better way of doing it. But we all learn. Experience teaches us a lot. But those fears, you have to speak truth into those fears. See, Cindy said, I didn't do that. Well, high five, girl. Unless you're being tongue in cheek. And then I'm like, hey, welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. Needing support doesn't mean you're weak, okay? It means the weight has changed. The weight of responsibility, visibility, leadership, consistency. The cost of carrying it alone. The difference between needing advice and needing understanding, okay? Beginners need instructions. A growing business, okay? Growing business and business owners, they need perspective, okay? There are things that feel heavy right now than they used to, okay? There are things that feel heavy right now, heavier than they used to, okay? One of the hardest lessons for creators is learning that being seen is not the same as being supported. Because at first, visibility feels like support. People are watching, they're liking, they're commenting, and you think, okay, I must be doing something right. Okay? When did visibility start feeling like pressure instead of encouragement? It happened to me, where visibility felt more like pressure than encouragement. Think about it. Right? Right, Mary? Quality over quantity, friend. These are things that we've told our kids. It's like, duh. Numbers get to me. Numbers are visibility to me. Cindy, if we're focused on numbers, we're never going to get where we need to be. When I tell you and you talk to these creators that have all of these numbers, and then you see how many numbers they have and then how many views or how many likes they have on their stuff, it's not the same. It's not the same. Views do not mean support. They don't. They just don't. They don't. And it'll bring you into perspective when you start paying attention to that. When you start paying attention to how many people actually follow that person and how many people actually engage with that person. And I don't know what the magic potion is to get more engagement. I don't. But people have become so numb to this action. I mean, think about how many times you see somebody doing something and how many times you hit that like button or make a comment. It's a fact. It's a fact. Pay attention to that stuff, okay? Likes don't equal safety, followers don't equal peers, and customers don't equal colleagues, okay? Let's expand on this, okay? Likes disappear when you struggle. Engagement doesn't mean emotional backing. People can consume your content without caring how you're doing. Think about when somebody's having a meltdown, because this is where they come, because they feel like they have people that care. And this is where they come to kind of break down. And then it becomes that big, everybody's being like, did you see so-and-so have a meltdown? Did you see so-and-so go off about so-and-so? Oh my word. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't bring your private matters to a public platform, because I hate to point out the fact that people love drama. Any kind of drama, any inkling of drama, any idea of drama. They're drawn to drama like flies to a zapping light. What happens to the fly when it goes to that light? It gets zapped. Stop being that light that people get zapped in. Okay, don't do that. Be different. Show up positive. Show up encouraging. Show up uplifting. Show up where you're lifting others up, where people leave your live and they actually feel better. They actually feel better. Not drained, not exhausted, not hungry for the next tidbit of whatever drama you're bringing to the situation. People are looking for places they feel better, they feel energized, they feel good after watching, after being around. Okay? Be that. Be that. Okay? Followers don't equal peers. Here's followers watch the highlight reel. They don't carry responsibility with you, and they're not in the decision-making room. Okay? So followers don't equal anything. They don't. Other than on certain platforms, you can't go live without a certain amount of followers. You can't go live on this platform. It's 1,000. Okay. But you can't go live without a certain amount of followers. So I get that, folks. But once you have that many followers, then go live and the right people will follow you for the right reason. Okay. That's what we need to focus on. And customers don't equal colleagues, which means customers love the product. They don't see the process, stress, or sacrifice, and they aren't building alongside you. So customers have to be put in the right place. Okay. Who actually knows the weight behind what you're carrying? Who knows that weight? Somebody else who's building a business in this arena too. That's who's going to understand what you're carrying. That's who's going to understand the frustrations and the desires and the wants and the fill in the blank, is somebody else that's walking that same journey. Okay. And that comes with community. Okay. All right. Let's talk about public platforms can't hold everything. Okay. Public platforms are amazing for visibility, but they're not always a place for real questions. Okay. Public spaces reward confidence, penalize uncertainty, and encourage performance. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard people say, it's time for me to go entertain people. I'm going to go hit the live button. I've said it. Or it drains me. Going live drains me. Have you felt that? Have you felt that hitting that live button is draining? I'm telling you, these are all real things that people feel. Real questions require context, trust, safety, nuance, right? You don't ask hard questions publicly because screenshots live forever. How many times has somebody screenshotted something you did, something you said, something they saw on the screen? How many times has people screenshotted that? And did you know that people can screen record while you're live? How you show up matters for those reasons alone. Showing up matters for those reasons alone. Okay, people are going to take what you say, and based on their perspective, they can twist very much the crap out of what you say. Okay? Or they can start asking questions about, who is she talking about? Because it has to be somebody. You know, because why would they be bringing it to a public place if they're not talking about somebody? You never knew about screen recording, Cindy? I've actually encouraged people to screen record when I'm showing something and I'm live because we're on this platform and there's no replay. You know, I've actually showed people how to screen record to see what I'm doing so they can go back and watch it. I'm well aware of the things that can be done on here because I've done them. If I wanted to go back and see something or see how somebody does something, I've screen recorded. I'm 100% honest. When you're putting something out here publicly, just know it's public. You have no jurisdiction over what people do on that side of the screen. Just saying. Just saying. Advice comes without understanding, okay? And vulnerability gets misunderstood. Okay? When you're when you're going live and you're making something and nobody's interacting with you on the other side of the screen because either they just put you on and they're off doing something else or whatever, and you're not getting feedback from your audience, you struggle for things to say. Has anybody been there? Has anybody hit that live button and nobody's giving you feedback, so you don't even know what to talk about, and sometimes you overshare? Miss Jen, hi honey. I mean, it happens, right? You get to a point where it's frustrating, where you're just like, okay, I just need somebody to talk back to me so that we can have a conversation, because I'm just sitting here sharing all kinds of stuff that I probably shouldn't be sharing. But that's vulnerability. When you hit that live button, when you're putting yourself out here, that's vulnerable because you can't control what's happening on that side of the screen. You don't know what somebody's doing over there. Like, somebody could be like hating on me over there going, who does she think she is? She thinks she knows everything. Well, I'm the first one to tell you, I don't. I don't know everything. Okay? I am a natural learner. If I don't know something, I'm going to figure it out. Okay? If I don't know something, I want to figure it out. I have a curiosity in me. I have a curiosity in me. I ask questions. I like to get to know people. So when I go into somebody's live that I've never seen before, that I don't know, I am going to engage. I am going to ask them questions. I want to know about them. You know, we have to be better. Like somebody just said in the chat, which already scrolled up, it says social media. Be social. Be social. Right? It's important. We need engagement. Okay, we need engagement. I am so thrilled that you guys are here, you're enjoying this, and you're engaging with me. That means the absolute world to me. So know that I see you, and I'm so thrilled that you've taken the time to join me here. Because I know that as much as there's ugliness in the world, there's so much good. Thanks, Jen. You have a good day, friend. There's so much good. And if we're not focused on the good, we're not going to see it. You see what you focus on. Remember that? You see what you focus on. If you're focused on the bad, that's all you're going to see. If you're focused on the good, you'll see more of the good happening. Period. That's just a fact. So focus on the good things. Okay? Focus on the good things. Thoughts become reality. Gosh, that is like my mantra. What you think, you believe. And if your thoughts are negative, you need to check yourself and you need to change that script, okay? How many people in here right now struggle with boundaries? Struggle with setting boundaries, understanding why boundaries are ignored? Boundaries are so important, okay? Boundaries protect you. Me, and me. You have multiple personalities over there, Cindy. You're getting better at that. Gina, good. Good. But boundaries matter. And it matters because not every live is a classroom. Not every live is a classroom. Okay. A lot of times people go live because they just want to sell what their inventory. They just want to sell what they have. They want to show customers the quality of what they make. So it's not every live is a classroom. Stop expecting that from everybody. Okay. Stop expecting that from everybody. Okay. And if you're not a natural teacher and that's not normally what you do, or you don't want to attract just creators, then you have to be mindful of that. But it is so hard to be out here without engagement and not automatically just start talking about what you're doing. That's just a fact. Okay, so you might attract creators just based on that. Some lives are for selling, some are for creating, some are for inspiration, which is what this is. Okay, not everything is a free for all Q&A. Okay, not everything is like that. Not all creators are in teaching mode. Cindy just had a meltdown. Cindy, tell yourself you're going to go live and then you don't do it. You don't create a schedule and you're frustrated. I bet you anything if I asked you how you're going to fix that. You could tell me. You could tell me exactly how you're going to fix that. You have that power. You can actually do different. Okay, Gina, you need people to engage, otherwise you get quiet. Exactly. So then you're getting thrown out into the For You page, right? And all they're seeing is somebody being quiet, creating, not necessarily engaging. You would rather chit chat than teach. See, Emily, that's why there's so many different creators out here. See, probably not. LOL. Change focus and just do it. Hello, friend. Cindy, think of it this way. Talk to yourself like you would a friend or your child or your children or grandchild. Talk to yourself the way you would talk to them if they came to you and said the exact same thing you just said. You have the power to change it. Only you can change that. It's a shift in mindset. It's definitely a shift in mindset. So again, I want to take some words off of the vocabulary. If somebody's not sharing during their live because it's not an open Q&A, it's not that kind of stuff, stop calling it gatekeeping. I have seen awful comments in people's posts because they're not sharing where they got something, where they bought something, what they're doing, what it's called. Stop labeling people. It's not pretty and it doesn't look good on you. Stop the entitlement action. Stop feeling entitled that you deserve to know all the things because you asked the question. It's not fair to the creator. Okay? Gina, that was a confession. I talked myself out of going live all last week. Why? Why? What was the reason? Why did you talk yourself out of it? How is anybody going to know who Gina is and what Gina has if you're not putting yourself out there? Friend, because it was a new platform. So this must be the other platform that you were sharing about earlier. Just hit the freaking button. The worst thing that can happen is people aren't going to engage and you're going to overshare. Okay, done that before. If you've gone live on other platforms, a new platform's no different. It's no different. I haven't jumped over there. Not yet. Cindy, you were making a wreath when you went into AFib. Wow. Wow. I have no words for that, friend. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're okay. Wow. I have no words for that, but know that, whoo, I actually watch a creator that had a stroke while they were live, and she talks about it. She now has a stutter because of that stroke, and she still goes live. Whew, real life things happen, folks, because we're real people, right? Real life things happen because we are real people with feelings, with emotions, imperfect, flawed. We are all these things, okay? So if we can show up in our humanness and we can encourage others to show up in their humanness, we can all do this better together. Yeah, we're not just someone behind the screen. Yeah. I'm not here without any emotion, without any feeling, without any past hurts, or I'm not perfect. And I don't expect anyone else to be perfect unless it's a bot. Gina's like, yeah, we're human unless it's a bot. True. That's a good point. Okay. A creator can be generous without being responsible for everyone. If they feel like sharing, if they feel like sharing tidbits, information, or whatever, that's a generous thing to do. So receive it that way. A business can be visible without being accessible 24/7. Just because you are a business doesn't mean that everyone has access to you 24/7. That's a boundary. Okay. Teaching requires capacity, not just knowledge. So I have a giftedness of teaching. So it's a natural thing for me and I need to lean into it, because if I fight it, it feels inauthentic to me. Okay. So show up in your giftedness, whatever it may be, show up in your giftedness, in your capacity, and you can sustain that. Okay, it's when you try to be something that you're not that you can't sustain it. Okay, it's important to show up authentically you and stop comparing yourself to everyone else around you. Okay, you can show up authentically as yourself. Cindy, you can share your story of what happened to you when you were live once. Talk through that fear. Take the power away from it. Even if you just hit that live and say, this is all I can do right now, because there's a real fear behind it. Do you know how much people would appreciate that? Do you know how much people would appreciate that? And then you become relatable. Just saying, show up authentically as yourself. Okay? Have you ever felt frustrated because somebody couldn't give you what you needed when what you really needed was a different space, different perspective? You know, frustrations can be real. Sometimes when you're watching people, if you feel some kind of way when you're watching somebody, if it's not a good feeling, if you have a criticism that isn't constructive, swipe away. Because if you're not in that right mind space, feeling space, sometimes it's just better to walk away from the online space if you're not showing up as your best self. You know, because here's the thing, people have bad days. People have bad feelings. You know, people have breakups. Oh my gosh, can we talk about that? Breakups aren't just for relationships, like intimate relationships. They happen in friendships, they happen in businesses. Breakups happen. Breakups happen, and we need to make that okay. It's okay that a breakup happens. You know, people that loved each other, thought the world of each other, supported each other, if something shifts and a season changes, they can separate. They can split up. They can go their separate ways. And it doesn't have to be a big announcement. Seasons change, people grow, people are in different seasons, and it's okay. Doesn't make anybody a villain. Doesn't make people a villain. Okay? So stop villainizing people. Stop trying to get people to be on your side. Or here's a question. When you feel some kind of way about a person, a situation, how do you process that? Do you have to process it in a group, which isn't healthy, by the way? Or do you process it with somebody that knows you, that you can trust, that you can be like, hey, am I looking at this in a way that I shouldn't be? Am I looking at this wrong? Or are you the type of person that everybody has to get on board with you? That everybody has to think the same way about this person than you do? Why? Why is that a thing? Why does everybody have to feel the same way about somebody? What is it called? Character assassination? Why? Why do you have to do that? Why does everybody have to be friends with everybody? Why can't people just be friends with who they want to be friends with, and it doesn't affect your friendships? What's that saying? A friend of my enemy is not my friend. Why? I don't understand that concept. Like, and I know that people are like, maybe you don't understand what I'm saying, or maybe you're processing your own thing, but I just don't feel like it has to be that way. I think that everybody relates to people differently, and sometimes there's friction, and sometimes that friction is just between two people. I talk to my spouse. He's not on social media. My social circle online is teeny tiny. Some people just don't vibe. And if that's, hold on a second, if that's the case, it's fine. Just move on. Exactly. Exactly. And don't be the person that's sharing about other people. That is the biggest, if you get nothing else out of this conversation, if that person is not in the room, that person should not be spoken about. Period. Period. If they're not here, they shouldn't be talked about. Because guess what? If you're listening, if you're in that social circle and you're listening to them talk about others, guess what's going to happen when you leave? Just saying. Just saying. That is like the biggest. Exactly. You're next. Yep. 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 All right, let's see. I can't believe I've already spoken for an hour and a half. This obviously this conversation is hitting people well. Okay. Growth comes with responsibilities that no one warns you about, okay? It can feel so lonely even when things are going well, okay? We talk a lot about goals, but we don't talk enough about the weight that comes with reaching them, okay? What responsibilities surprised you the most when things started working? What surprised you the most when things started working? Okay? And it's a responsibility, okay? And who are you sharing that with? And are people really, truly high-fiving the heck out of you when the goals that you made, the things that you put in place are working for you? That's huge. That's huge. You know, and then the fear, right, comes in when things are working. Can I maintain this? What if this slows down? What if I mess this up? So you need to speak truth to those fears. Okay? Can you maintain it? If you're doing it authentically to yourself, if you're staying authentic and true to yourself, you can sustain it. You can sustain it. But sometimes it means pivoting, right? If it's too much at that time, sometimes it means you need to pivot it. And that's okay too. So pivot it, okay? What if it slows down? If any of us have been in this any amount of time, we know that there's times where things are super busy and times when things are super quiet. It's what you do in those quiet times to prepare for those busy times that is going to make you successful. There are also things that you can do for your business that kind of make things flow more automatic, that feel more like sustainable, like batching things, making things in batches, you know? The copying is annoying. Mary's just putting it right out there. The copying is annoying. Now, I'm going to speak to my friend Mary because I know my friend Mary, and I know that she's worked really hard to create designs that belong to her, that when you see her design, you know that's Mary. Mary made that, okay? Mary's quality is so much better. But here's the thing, okay? So I know that the mindset of somebody copying your stuff is flattery, and I get that there's a fine line. There's a fine line. It's one thing to say, hey, that was a good idea. I think I want to make my own idea based on that, but make it your own. That's different. That's different. Just is. It's just different. But here's the other thing. There are creatives that are super creative in the details of creativity. And there are creatives that need to see something in order to create it. And Mary, I know that this is a touchy subject for you. I know that it is. But I am telling you that there is no doubt in my mind that when somebody sees a copycat, they know where it came from. So kudos to you for designing in a way that's clearly your own. There's a difference between inspiration and plagiarism. Absolutely. Absolutely. But that again falls under the things that you can't control. Hi, Miss Angela. That falls under the things you can't control. You can only control you. You can't control what others do. You can't control what others do. But when you show up authentically, yourself and your creativity is yours, I promise you, you will be successful regardless of what other people do or don't do. You're going to be successful just by being who you are. And I know that to be true. Okay? I know that to be true. Gina. Someone recently copied one of my signs, but no one will ever know because he's bigger than me. But you know. But you know. And that's okay. Guys, here's the thing. You are gifted. You are gifted. You are purposely, wonderfully made in your giftedness. Okay? I wish that I could take that frustration from you when somebody plagiarizes you. I'm going to use the right word. Okay? Because the ownership of it, unless you go through the expensive process, unfortunately, nobody's going to get in trouble. Nobody's going to get in trouble. But the truth of the matter is your customers will always be your customers. And if somebody else copies you, whatever, they're not you. That person is not you. You know? And it's okay. And it's okay. But big hugs to my friends that have done wonderful things that other people see and they're like, I need to do that too. Kudos to you, my loves. You are creative and nobody can take that from you. Okay? Because you can, that's the other thing. Remember this. Because you're creative, you're going to continue to be creative. All they're going to do is continue copying. And you can take that as you take it. Okay? But there's only one you. There's only one you. And I'll tell you what, I am not buying from anybody other than the original creator. Because that's how I support my creative friends. Is I buy from the one who created it. Okay, but that's me. That's me. You only have control over you. That's all you can control, okay? All right. All right, let's continue the conversation. Decision fatigue. Has anybody felt that? Okay, every level of growth adds decisions. What to say yes to, what to turn down, what to invest in, when to pivot, when to rest, and when to push. Okay? And the hardest part, there's no right answer. There's no right answer. And the truth of the matter is beginners follow instructions. I know that when I started, I needed a recipe. I needed a recipe to follow because I wanted what I was making to look like what I was making. But now, because I have experience with techniques and I've grown in my craft, I can now be more creative in what I do. Okay? So as you're growing, the decisions get bigger and you can have decision fatigue. Like Gina just said, every time she makes a wreath, trying to decide on ribbon. Was it easier when you had less ribbon to choose from? Is it harder now that you have so much more ribbon to choose from? As you grow, the number of people you can fully be honest with gets smaller. Does anybody notice that? You stop venting publicly, you protect your brand, you protect others' perceptions, and you carry things quietly. You don't talk about stress because you need to be grateful. You don't talk about fear because it's going well, why complain? And you don't talk about uncertainty because people expect confidence now. Guys, we're human beings. So that means that we're going to have good days, good weeks, good months, but we're also going to have difficult days, difficult weeks, difficult months, because we are not just focused on one thing in life. We're not just focused on our business, because life happens around us. What happens with our loved ones affects us. What happens with our health affects us. If I'm being 100% honest, what happens with our pets affects us. I mean, we are human beings. We're not just machines cranking out designs, right? So all of life, because we're human, affects us, right? So just show up authentically, consistently, and you will find that it becomes easier. You figure out what you're okay with sharing, what you're okay with mending, what you're okay with talking about. Okay? That matters. But we've heard people say, I've talked myself out of going live. I've had something very serious happen to me while I was live, so I have fear in that. Okay? Share your stories. Share your humanness. Okay? Share your imperfections. Be relatable. Be relatable. People are drawn to that. People don't want to always see you showing up perfectly. They don't. That's not an expectation. They want to relate to you. So show up relatable, authentically, and that is sustainable. You can do that. If somebody said just show up as yourself, give yourself permission to do so. Give yourself permission to show up for you as you, and you can sustain that, which makes it easier for you to continue to show up that way. Okay, but people, you need to put yourself out here. If you have an online business, you have to be online. Okay, here's something, the win dilemma. Why success can feel isolating. You can't always talk about your wins. These are things you tell yourself. You downplay progress, you soften milestones, and you celebrate quietly. That you're in the wrong community. You're in the wrong place if you feel like you have to do that. You're in the wrong place. You're not doing it right. Because your wins are from your work. Could you imagine building a house, building your home, and not sharing it with anybody? What are you going to do? Cover people's eyes? They can't look at your home? They can't look at your beautiful home? You're building something when you're building this. You're building exactly. So celebrate those things. Celebrate those little wins every single time you have one. Celebrate the effort that you've put into what you're doing, what you're building. That's important. And the community, the people that you have surrounding you, should be celebrating that with you. And if they're not, find people that will. But you also have to show up the way you're looking for people to show up for you. So you also have to show up high-fiving and celebrating and all of those things. And if it's not authentic for you, if you're not feeling that way, then take a step back and check yourself. Okay? Check yourself. Be self-aware. Figure out why it bothers you when somebody else is winning. But that's a you problem, not a them problem. I hope that makes sense. And if talking about your struggles is hard, if talking about your struggles within your community is hard, it could be because that's all you talk about. If you're only talking about your struggles and you're doing nothing to change that, again, that's a you problem. You have the struggle and you're doing nothing to get out of that struggle or pivot from that struggle or fix whatever that struggle is causing. That's you. That's a you thing. You have to look at it that way. Okay? Because you can't just always share about your struggles and expect to have the support all the time if you haven't changed anything, if you haven't adjusted anything, if you haven't figured out how to fix what your struggle is. What is the saying? The definition of crazy is doing the same thing all the time, expecting a different result. Mary says, I can only talk about Parkinson's so much. It's so boring. Friend, I appreciate that you share about your journey. I do. I appreciate that you're able to put yourself out here and be like, this is me. You know, you have from when I first started watching you, Mary, you have come such a long way from what you would share first, because you weren't comfortable with what would happen while you were live, and you almost felt like you always had to explain it instead of waiting for somebody to ask you. Because if they don't ask you, they don't care enough to ask you. Does that make sense? So I wouldn't say it's boring, because you've built a wonderful community that you have found a beautiful support with other what you call parkies. And I love that, but it's because you put yourself out there. It's because you put yourself out there. I only have a few minutes left, so I want to touch on some other. Oh, here's another good bullet point. Not everyone is meant to come with you in your next season. Okay, not everyone is meant to come with you in your next season. So if you find that you're in a season where people start pulling away, where relationships are kind of shifting and things are kind of changing, there's no reason to get mad about it. There really isn't. It's not going to benefit anything. You can't chase somebody or hold on to somebody so tight that you think that you're going to drag them into your next season, because guess what? It's not going to be good for anybody. And sometimes it's okay to part ways. There's no bad feelings. There's no regrets for the time that you spent together. It's just not everybody is meant to go into your next season. And you're not meant to go into somebody else's next season. And that's okay. That's okay. You just it's like a big old playground, right? You gather your toys and you move to the next playground. If you think about, I think about everything in a school sense, okay? Imagine that there's different grade levels and different ages and different groups of people, okay? It was fun to play in kindergarten because we're all in kindergarten, right? We're all playing, we've all got our toys, we're all digging in the sand, right? Well, sometimes that's where people want to stay. They want to stay digging in the sand in the kindergarten area. Other people want to move on to first grade because that's where they're at now. And let's talk about those people that are super special that are in first grade reading at a third grade level, so they need to be over here in the third grade bucket. It doesn't make that first grade or that kindergarten bad. It just means that they're at third grade level and they need to be there. Because if we can actually stunt somebody else's growth if we think that we can keep them with us and they're meant to move on. Don't do that to yourself or to somebody else. Exactly, Emily. Sometimes people are in a season for a reason, but seasons change and we do too. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And it's okay to part ways. It doesn't have to be a fight. It doesn't have to be ugly. It doesn't have to be anything but what it is. And you just part ways and move on. There's no anger. There's no anything. It worked in that season. That season no longer works, so you move on, and that's okay. And it's important to be mature in that and to move on without the drama. Everything is not a big drama. It really isn't. It's just people outgrow each other. So be careful in assumptions. The only person I'm married to is my husband. There's a reason. There's a reason that's the only relationship you vow to. You take vows to one another. I don't know of anybody in friendships who have taken vows. Let that sink in. The only relationship you vow to, for better, for worse, is one person. It's okay to feel sadness, but don't dwell on it. Absolutely. And take all the good things and still know that those are still good, right? All the good things are still good. Nothing that happens takes away from the good. The good will still be good. Okay? Because that's a fact. The good does not change to not good. The good will always stay good. Okay? Same thing for the bad, but we're focusing on the good. I'm not polyamorous. Well, that's good to know, Mary. I just learned something about you. You're what you're not. All right. So don't compare yourselves. If I can say something to you in this season, in this moment, is please don't compare yourselves. You can compare yourself to who you were a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. That's healthy because you want to see your growth. But do not compare you to somebody else. And when you start doing that, when you see yourself doing that, stop yourself and tell yourself, I can't compare myself to that person. Because a lot of times you're comparing your year 1 to somebody's year 5, to somebody's year 10. That's not going to get you there. That's going to hold you where you're at. So do not compare yourself to anybody other than yourself. Okay? You need to be doing better next year than you are today. Okay? For my friends that talk themselves out of going live, a year from now, you need to tell yourself, I remember when I used to talk myself out of it. Now it's an easy peasy breezy thing. I just hit the live button. And what I tell people for that consistency to happen, have your space set up for drop and go. So that means where your phone goes and where your ring light is, where your lighting is, it's ready to just go. So that way, that's not something that's going to stop you from going live because you're ready to go. Okay? It's when you I have to clean this, I have to do this. That'll talk you out of going live more than anything else. So have your drop and go ready. So if it's a matter of just shifting stuff out of this little screen, because this is all people are going to see is right here. So whatever you decide to show people, that's all they're going to see. Okay? So be mindful of that. So set yourself up in a drop and go situation. So all you have to do is put your phone in, drop and go. And tell yourself, if I'm feeling good while I'm live, and your live doesn't have to be however long. It can go as long as you want or as short as you want. That's up to you too. But what's important is that you do it and that it becomes a normal thing, more natural thing. Okay? That matters more than anything. But stop talking yourself out of it. Or reach out to somebody that tells you, drop and go. Just drop and go live. Okay? Let me see. Oh, and as I shared, it would be quite embarrassing for most of us if people saw the other side of our room. Gina, this right here is the reality we create. This little box right here is the reality we create. Okay? So you create that reality. And that it's just a matter of what people are going to be focused on, right? So you have that control. The whole setup dropped off the table in my live the other day. Oh, Emily, I'm sure your people laughed about that because that's real. That's real. Stuff like that can and will happen, and that's okay. And that's okay. Give yourself permission to be real. Why were you embarrassed? Girl, come on. Understand that being as authentically real and showing up that way is what endears people to you. Perfection doesn't. Or thinking that you're putting out your perfect. You felt like an idiot? Emily, you need people talking differently to you because you don't talk nice to yourself. See, I've dropped my phone a few times while I'm live. Guys, a while ago, unintentionally, with a gingerbread that had a stick in its bottom, I unintentionally looked like I was violating a gingerbread. It wasn't on purpose. It was not on purpose. Stuff like that happens. Either you say something that gets taken the wrong way, or you do something that you never intended for it to look that way. I was just trying to get the stick to stop moving and glue it in. That's all I was doing, but it looked wrong. Okay? But that makes it funny, and that kind of takes the pressure out of being live. You know, because you have to understand, it is so important to just be you. And if you talk funny, if you say funny things, you'll draw people to you. You will. And don't feel pressure to be funny every time either, or to be fast, or fill in the blank. Just show up as yourself. People will show up to see you. Okay? Be intentional how you talk about others. Don't engage in negative conversation. Don't engage in conversations that start with, hey, did you hear what happened to so-and-so? Hey, have you heard from so-and-so? I heard this happened. That's conversations that are masked in concern. If a person truly wants to know what's going on with somebody, encourage them to reach out to that person. And if you've had a conversation with said person, that person needs to know that you're not going to go out and share what they shared with you with everybody. Wendy, my viewers think those things, they should probably watch someone else, right? And that's the thing, guys, we have the ability to swipe off. But I'm asking you to be a good person. I'm asking you to go against all the things that are natural as far as the conversations you have. You should be talking about you and you alone when you're talking to anybody. You should be talking about you and you alone. You should be sharing your stuff, not anybody else's stuff. And understand that if you're participating in conversations about others, that erodes trust, that erodes community, that makes things not healthy or good. We experienced a lot of that kind of stuff in grade school, middle school, high school. At some point, you have to say, I'm not going to do those things anymore because that's not who I am or what I want to participate in. You have to get to that point in your life. And if others don't agree with that with you, then move to somebody else who does. There are so many people in this wonderful world. Please hang out with people that make you better. Hang out with people that do things better than you. Okay? Because that'll make your life better. If people are doing things the right way, if people are doing things that build people up, not tear people down, I'm telling you, it rubs off on you. Anything that you surround yourself with rubs off on you. If you hang out with a bunch of people that curse like a sailor, you're going to be cursing like a sailor. If you hang out with people that gossip about everybody, you're going to gossip about everybody. If you hang out with people that are supportive and that truly understand the meaning of being good in a community, you are going to thrive. Okay? So hang out with people that are doing better than you, that are growing, that are doing things that are good for one another, and you will not feel alone. You will not feel lonely in building your business. You won't. Hello, Miss Diva. I saw you say hello. Hi, friend. All right, I have some exciting news to share with you. So as you know, I do a lot of these real talks talking to the community when I'm by myself. But next week, I have Linda of Sweet Aria Decor coming to join me, and I cannot wait for that conversation. Who in here knows Miss Linda of Sweet Aria Decor? Do you know who she is? Have you watched her at all? Have you seen some of her videos? Oh, that woman, she makes me laugh. I love her so much. She's so creative. Yes. So she's joining me next week at 11. She felt it was really important to share about mental health, creativity is care, and she's got an amazing story. She's got an incredible story. So she'll be joining me right here next week at 11 a.m. Central. So be here, have some questions for her. She is such an open book. She told me that there is absolutely nothing that she feels it's important to be a completely open book. So she's willing to answer any questions that you may have, and her story is absolutely incredible. So please join me here next week, 11 a.m. Central, for Real Talk with Miss Linda of Sweet Aria Decor. And friends, be good community members, but also find your people. Find the people that make you better. It will be so much easier out here. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye, friends.